You're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and of sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of the imagination. There's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the narrow mind.
The day of the big winter solstice party and Atheist Awards ceremony in San Francisco, California. Many of you know that I was trying to contact. We found this on the website, godlessgeeks.com, and I tried to contact the contact person here, a guy by the name of Chuck Cannon, who is one of the organizers for this event. I tried to contact him several times. Well, I was actually able to get through to him this morning, and I'm going to play that conversation for you in just a moment. This is going to serve kind of as a mini podcast version, a weekend edition of The Narrow Mind. We didn't broadcast this show live, and it was just pre-recorded, and it's only coming out via podcast. But I just kind of want to set up the conversation for you. As I mentioned, I tried to contact him several times. I was finally able to get through to Chuck, as you'll hear in just a moment. Chuck starts out sounding like one of the nicest atheists I've probably ever talked to. Those of you that know about the Narrow Mind program know that I talk to a lot of atheists, and I've never actually counted them up, but they got to be numbering somewhere in the hundreds by now. Anyhow, Chuck starts out sounding like one of the nicest atheists I've ever talked to. He's sincere, he's gracious. He even at one point invites me to come to the award ceremony. I began to ask him some questions, just some general observations about the information that's listed here on the website. For example, I began to ask him about the dinner menu. It says here that they're serving rosemary garlic chicken and blackened meatloaf, or pasta primavera. So I began to ask him about his atheistic worldview. And you'll notice that the tone of the conversation changes very quickly. Chuck goes from being one of the most nice, gracious, Chuck goes from being one of the nicest and most gracious atheists that we've ever talked to being somebody that just doesn't want to talk to me at all. And I don't think, if you listen to it, I don't think that I was being rude to him. I think that I was being pleasant to him. I think that I was being respectful and courteous to him. I just wanted to make sure that I understood what he was saying. At the end of the conversation, he essentially threatens that he's going to sue me if I play this podcast, but you'll hear that out of his own mouth. Here's the thing. If you have an event that's posted on a website such as Godless Geeks, and by the way, this is the website of Atheist of Silicon Valley. This is a website that features news and upcoming events of interest for atheists in the Silicon Valley or the Bay Area. And so if you're the contact person on the website and somebody calls you and they say, "Hey, my name's Gene. I'm the host of the Narrow Mind radio program, and I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about your event." What do you think? I mean, do you think that this is just somebody calling you on their cell phone while they're driving up the freeway because they're curious about what's going on? No. They're calling you because they are obtaining material for their radio program. I mean, if somebody called me and said, "Hey, this is so-and-so, and I'm calling from such and such radio program, and we'd like to ask you a few questions about the Narrow Mind," I would automatically assume that they're either going to quote me or they're going to play my conversation at some other point. That's why they're identifying themselves as a talk show host, okay? Well, for some reason, he seemed to be okay with that in the beginning. But then when it became evident that he really hadn't thought through the implications of his worldview, his tone changed dramatically. And so This is going to serve, as I mentioned, as a weekend mini edition of The Narrow Mind. So here you go. Enjoy. And don't forget to pray for Chuck.
Hello?
Hi, is this Chuck?
Yeah?
Hey, Chuck, my name is Gene Cook, and I'm the host of a Christian radio program called The Narrow Mind. And it came to our attention that you guys are hosting an Atheist Awards ceremony tonight in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I could just ask you...
Hold on. Are we on the air now?
No.
Okay.
No. I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about the event.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, it says that you're going to have special awards. I was wondering, what were the categories that you're going to be offering awards in?
You know, I honestly, and not to not answer your question, but I honestly don't know. I'm not doing the awards. There's a fellow from American Atheist who is giving awards. My function is more of, I would say, like a master of ceremonies. I'll do some introductory comments to the dinner, welcome everybody, explain a little bit about the solstice and how this got to be a holiday season.
Okay.
And then more or less just introduce other speakers, and then I will do a bit of a Bible reading and tell the story of the star and the wise men, and then award some little gifts at the end. So although there are going to be awards, you're correct. It's a fellow named Dave Kong from American Atheist who will give the awards.
Okay.
And you know, if you are interested in what those awards are, I would be happy to give you a call, or you could call me back, Sunday, Monday.
Okay, maybe we'll do that.
In fact, if you wanted to, it might be difficult. I was going to say, if you wanted to come attend the event, there are 40 people. Atheists as a group are much smaller than Christians.
Sure.
Harder to organize.
Uh-huh.
And there's 40 people who will be at the dinner. There's 41 seats. I don't know if we could get you a meal, or if you'd like to just order a meal to rest. But if you would like to just sit in,
I'd love to. The only problem is I live in San Diego.
And I would preface it with this: this is in no way a anti-Christian or anti-God kind of event. It's a group of people who philosophically have come to conclusions that I think are as valid as the conclusions that Christians would come to. And we just, as a group, celebrate together. There's nothing mean-spirited or, like I say, against anyone. It's just a group who share a common belief and camaraderie. And you would be as welcome as anybody to be there. So, it's at Delancey Street. It's this evening. How did you find out about it?
Well, I found it on the website, godlessgeeks.com.
Oh, okay.
I live in San Diego, so I wouldn't be able to attend the event. If I was local, I would definitely come check it out. I appreciate the fact that you invited me. Yeah. When I saw the special Bible readings, at an atheist event, as a Christian, you automatically assume that the Bible is going to be ridiculed or mocked or something like that. So that's one of the reasons why I was calling. So you're just going to read the event surrounding the Christmas story.
Yeah. It's Matthew, the book of Matthew, and where he talks about the Magi from the east,
right,
seeing a star, following it to Bethlehem. There's a few ironies in that story about the star rising in the east, and yet they travel to the west, and so forth. But it's in no way it's not a smearing, irreverent kind of thing, certainly. That's all I can say about it. There's no intent to ridicule, make fun, and that sort of thing. It's really because as atheists or agnostics, people generally don't have the same core set of beliefs. So to celebrate really is like a little event we get together for and celebrate as a group. We're going to have poinsettias on the table, and people dress up, and it's a nice affair. If there is some with your Christian radio station, if you have what I might call a sister station up here, I would extend the same, welcome. As long as I knew about it in advance, I'd even introduce whoever it was and give them the floor for 5 minutes if they just wanted to say, here's how, here's my take and my perspective on things. So,
well, that's very gracious and generous of you. I appreciate that. Now, most atheists that I've talked to, because we have a regular Wednesday morning we kind of dedicate to the subject of atheism, and we either talk about atheism or we interview an atheist guest. And most of the atheists that we've talked to believe in some type of evolution, and I was wondering if that's been your experience also.
Oh yeah, that certainly is my profound belief, is evolution.
Okay.
As opposed to what you might call creationism, more intelligent design. Sure.
Yeah. Now, most of the atheists that we spoke to say that we are just, human beings are nothing more than advanced forms of animals. Would you agree with that?
I would say that how would you define an animal?
Well, I define an animal differently than an atheist would. We would define an animal as somebody who's non-human. We as Christians, we make a distinction between humanity, those that are made in the image of God, and the rest of the animal kingdom, those that are creatures that are designed by God to have a different function on the planet Earth. But it seems to me that if evolution is true, then we're all part of the same family. Mm-hmm. In the big scheme of things.
You know what? I missed your name. I know you told me your name, and
right. My name is Gene Cook.
Jim?
Gene. Gene.
Oh, Gene.
Yeah.
Well, if you define, you're kind of defining human as non-animal. You're setting the definition there. I would say that humans are animals in that we share so much with the animal kingdom. Now, if you look at biology, zoology as opposed to botany, zoology talks about animals and the animal kingdom. And we share so much with animals. It's hard to say, in my mind, that we're not. You look at mammals, you dissect one. They have hearts, they have livers, they have intestines, they have kidneys. Mm-hmm. They have all of those things. What they don't have, and what we don't have that you can't point to, is something that you might call a soul. Mm-hmm. That's like nuggets. Chickens don't have nuggets. The soul, if you want to believe in a soul, I guess you would certainly be able to believe that, but there's just no evidence. And it's such a profound concept that, in my mind, I would want a little bit of evidence for such a thing existing. And the way you define human as not being animal, you interjected in your definition there a couple of times, a God.
Yeah. No, I was wondering about your understanding of the relationship between animals and humans.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems pretty evident that we're an animal.
So I noticed you're going to be serving for dinner chicken and meatloaf, and I was just wondering, in an atheist kind of understanding of the world, why it's not immoral to eat a fallow animal.
You could ask a shark, why is it not immoral to eat another fish?
Well, I don't think it is.
I don't see it as a moral issue. I see it as a survival issue.
Okay.
And you don't eat animals?
No, I do. But see, as a Christian, I make a distinction between animals and human beings. What you just explained to us about atheism in the evolutionary scheme is that there is no distinction between animals and humans. In fact, animals are humans. But when we see a guy like...
humans are animals. Animals are
not
humans.
I'm sorry. Humans are animals.
Humans are animals.
Right.
Sure.
So when we see a guy like Jeffrey Dahmer, who he would kill fellow human beings and eat them, most atheists say that that's immoral. But I can't understand why it would be immoral to kill and eat a human being if he's an animal and not a chicken or a cow.
Well, if I were to take your position and say there's a God, I would say that God requires us to survive, so we have to eat.
Okay, but then you couldn't be an atheist anymore.
Gene, we evolved in a way that requires us to eat and we're omnivorous. This is what evolution does.
No, I understand that.
People.
I understand that, but I'm wondering, would you then say that it was immoral to eat a human being?
It's the thing I've never thought about. Is it immoral to eat a human being? It would be unusual to eat a human being. It would be unnecessary to eat a human being. You can go back to that plane crash in Argentina or wherever it was, the soccer team, where people for survival, ate other humans, or the Donner Party in California where that happened. I think when it's necessary, people will revert to that. I certainly don't put a moral dimension to it, or I haven't in my thoughts on the whole subject. I would say if you feel that it's immoral, certainly you should not eat another human being. I would advise you not to do that. You should never break your moral code.
And do you believe that each of us we have the freedom to develop our own moral code?
No, I don't think. Now you're putting words in my mouth. You're
I'm asking you a question.
You think I believe? I don't believe people can develop their own moral code. I think there are what we would call societal codes that require that we not injure or damage or hurt other people. I think that's where these codes come from. They certainly don't come from, nor does there require a god for us or a sky creature to have a moral code.
Okay, so then moral codes are designed and established by societies? Is that your position?
Well, you're coming out with a lot of questions fast that I haven't thought about.
Okay, no problem. I caught you off guard.
Some thoughts on this.
Sure. If you don't want to answer, that's fine.
No. Don't do if I don't want to answer. You're calling me out of the blue when I'm in the middle of doing a number of other things. I'm trying to be attentive to you, but at the same time, the conversation seems to be going to where you're like attempting to set little Christian traps or something to. When we started the conversation about the dinner, you were concerned that we might be smearing in some way Christians. You're giving me the same feeling that you're attempting to set things up, often illogically, in a way that would attempt to trap or demean, and I wouldn't want to appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry if you feel that way. All I did was ask you, Chuck, if I understand your position correctly, societies establish moral codes. I'm just trying to, I don't want to misquote you, and I wanted to make sure that I
don't want you to quote me at all. Well, when you say you don't want to misquote me, where are you quoting me?
No, when I ask you a question, you say you said a moment ago that I was putting words in your mouth.
Let me just to make sure, and I enjoy talking with you, but you're saying that we're not on the air?
No, we're not on the air.
And we're not being recorded?
No, I'm recording the conversation, but...
Oh, no, I don't talk to... that's really unfair. You're recording this conversation?
Yeah, I told you I'm
not even sure that's legal. Not only is that...
I told you I was the host of
but
Chuck, I told you I was the host of a Christian radio program, and I wanted to know if I could interview you about the event tonight.
No, come on now. You're being so unfair. I'm not giving you any permission at all, and I will hold you civilly and legally responsible for any dissemination of our conversation because I was not advised this was recorded. Do you clearly understand that?
Okay. I understand.
Clearly understand
that?
that?
Yeah, I clearly understand that.
Okay.
But here's the thing, Chuck. Don't you want to get the word out?
I can't talk to you anymore. Okay?
Chuck, don't you want...
It's not that you're winning a conversation. It's that you're being exceedingly deceptive.
Chuck, don't you want to get the word out? Don't you want to get the word out, Chuck, about atheism? I mean, if all these people are... You still there, Chuck? Well, folks... you certainly wouldn't get that from a Christian, I would hope, if an atheist called up and started asking questions about a Christian event. Hey, I've got all kinds of enemies. In fact, the motto of our program here is love them or hate them. You're still listening. And so if somebody wants to sue me for calling up and asking for an interview, which is exactly what I did, and he continued in the conversation, then that's not my problem. Sue away. I'm just a poor pastor of a small church. God bless you. Chuck, you really need to think through the implications of eating fellow animals. And Chuck, you really need to think through the implications of saying that societies are the ones that establish moral codes. Because as soon as you said that, and as soon as I asked you if I understood you correctly, you understood that you had a problem. You see, Chuck, the reality is that you're made in the image of God, and you can't escape it. May God open your eyes to His reality as He's opened mine. God bless you, and have a good Christmas.